Good evening to all of you, those who have joined. This is Dr. Nehal Anwar Siddiqui. Today we'll be talking on various occupational health and safety issues and safe operation of industries after COVID-19. I'm having three panelists today. I'm happy to share that's Dr. T.K. Joshi, Dr. R.K. Sharma and Dr. Akula Ram Krishnan. So these are our three panelists. So I will introduce one by one these panelists. I will start with the Dr. T.K. Joshi. Just to inform you, Dr. T.K. Joshi is by profession a medical doctor. He is having MBBS, MS in surgery. He has done additional qualification in MSc in occupational medicine from London University. He is having certificate in occupational and environmental medicine, University of California. He's having additional diploma again in occupational health. He's a fellow faculty of occupational medicine, Royal College of Physicians, London. A great person, I think. Today again, he's coming from Chandigarh, where he visited just to see that how now these shopping malls can be open safely. So I think he was invited by some associations of these malls. So he's just coming back from Chandigarh. He's still in car. So I think we'll take a lot of input from him. Just to read about his portfolio or CV. I think it's a long CV. He's having excellent qualification, excellent experience. I think he's a part of WHO. He has given so many studies. He has done so many studies. Health impact assessment for NTPC, health impact assessment for CPAT thermal power plant. He's actually conducted health impact assessment for Faridabad town also. So having a lot of experience in this area. And when we see again additional affiliation and membership is a fellow Collegium Ramazani. I think he was the first doctor of India. So great to see you. You will be talking on these different occupational health issues. He's also served as an expert member for International Labour Organization Geneva to finalize some of the health issues there. So I think number of awards and honors he has received: Best Paper Award, recipient of Research Integrity. When we see the area of expertise, he's expert in health risk assessment, hospital waste management, evaluating and auditing occupational health and safety. And he has held so many positions. So I think I will not go that much in detail. It's a big CV. Then I will move to Dr. R.K. Sharma, who is again having a excellent qualification, working as a head sustainability in India Glycols. I think one of the biggest chemical factory in India, having a BTech in fire safety engineering. He's having PhD in environmental engineering and MSc in chemistry, MBA in total quality management, having diploma in industrial safety, PG diploma in industrial pollution. Again, I think Dr. Sharma has given around 30 years to the industry, part of so many things. He's also included in the list of distinguished professionals of the world by the Marquess Who's and USA published in 16th edition. So having a very good knowledge about disaster management, fire risk assessment, part of I think National Safety Council. So welcome Dr. Sharma. Again, I hope they'll be talking in detail that what way you have started your industry safely. And then we have our third colleague, Dr. Ram Kula, who is having PhD in engineering, MBA in operation, chartered engineer mechanical, and chartered safety professionals from UK, and he's also a member of Canadian Society of Safety Engineers. So he's an expert in strategic performance management, balanced scorecard, business governance, balanced scorecard. So I think a lot of KPIs, KRAs, strategic development, action tracking, HSE excellence. And when we talk about domain experience, he's having 20 plus experience in operation, maintenance, engineering, safety, quality, business operation and excellence. So he's having, I think, international exposure to Asia, Europe, Middle East and North America. And present company, he's in Safety Erudite, Calgary, Canada, and working as a vice president. So I think these three safety professionals are with us, including Dr. T.K. Joshi, who is actually a MBBS doctor plus a occupational health expert. So I will start my discussion today with Dr. T.K. Joshi. That Dr. Joshi, I wish to know that what is your opinion that about occupational health issues, which are common practices in industries, but due to COVID-19, what is going to change? What way industry is going to operate? So over to Dr. T.K. Joshi.
Thank you very much, Dr. Siddiqui, and good afternoon and good morning to our colleague in Canada, because it's morning there. And thank you very much, Dr. Siddiqui, for this very generous introduction. Well, I hope I am audible and everyone can hear me.
Yes.
Okay, so what happened that there is a big group of malls in Mumbai, Nexus group of malls. There is a Nexus group of malls. They have malls all over India. They have one, the biggest mall in Chandigarh. They have mall in Amritsar. They have mall in Pune. They have mall in Ahmedabad, Mumbai, and so many places. So, the government of India announced that from 8th of June this year, following a series of lockdown, the government has allowed these malls and businesses to open and to start operating. Now, the issue is that we are in uncharted water, and we are dealing with a hazard which is a sort of an unknown hazard, because before 2019 nobody had any idea of this because it was not there. So now that this thing has arrived, and almost it is now 6 months since it started and it began, we have some hazy idea but not a very good idea as to what it is. We know this virus is a coronavirus, and coronavirus is a big family, alpha, beta, delta, and gamma. The alpha and beta the viruses, they produce illnesses as human beings. The alpha ones, they produce the common cold. I think this virus actually jumped from bat to cow and then cow to man some 200 years back. But the alpha coronavirus
your voice is disturbing,
Dr.
Joshi, maybe.
No, I'm saying that the alpha coronavirus, they cause common cold, and they have been there for 200 years. But this beta coronavirus, they cause 3 outbreaks. First, SARS in China in 2002 and 3, and then MERS in Middle East, and now the SARS-2. Now, the difference is a highly transmissible illness. And the worst part is that the people have the disease, have no symptoms, and they can infect others. So the malls where, people, crowds thronging in, and a lot of people coming in, there are employees, there are customers, there are all kinds of people. How you protect them? So I wanted to have a personal view of how these malls operate, and I was really amazed the kind of arrangement they have made. I mean, they are fantastic. The only preventive measures that we have is the physical distancing. Secondly is that a very thorough hand hygiene. Third is that we have to have respiratory etiquettes. And then the malls, they have to have an isolation room, because we advise them to have an isolation room where if somebody suddenly falls ill and start developing symptoms, he has to be immediately removed and taken outside. Now, one of the big hazards that I observed today was that these malls, because they have to store huge volumes of alcohol, and this the substance which they use for sanitization. It's high alcohol, and ethyl alcohol is a highly flammable material, and they had stored it for 3. They said we have provision for 3 months. So that is one very serious issue which I raised with them. I said, no, you should not have material for more than 15 days because it's a flammable hazard. But apart from that, they have done markings where the people will stand. there is etiquette that every person is thermal screen. Every person is then asked to use, clean his hands. Every person should be wearing a mask. Every person should be maintaining a distance. And in case there is somebody sick, then they will put him, they will not ask him to come report for duty. 1/3 of the staff, they have asked them to work from home, because the lesser the people you have, the better it is. So I would say that Government of India, your NDA, National Disaster Management Agency, have formulated some guidelines for industry, which I found very inefficient, very inadequate. But there are guidelines available from the CDC, Centers for Disease Control Atlanta, from WHO website, and the International Labour Organization. These three bodies have put together, all together, a set of guidelines which has to be customized to different workplaces. Because all workplaces have different hazards. So all these COVID hazard has to be viewed in the context of the other prevailing hazards. And the basic thing is that till we have the vaccine available, there is no way we can understand how it is being transmitted. Now there is some good development that we have got now rapid testing kits which can test for the antigen, and you can get the result very quickly, because otherwise the traditional gold standard is the RT-PCR, which takes a lot of time and which is expensive also. And the third comes the antibody testing, which actually certifies that the person has been. So there are these three sets of testing which is available, but the problem is that this is no standardization, and some of the tests, they give a lot of false negatives and false positives. So in a nutshell, I would summarize and would say that yes, we, with some kind of a imaginative and innovative thinking, can address the issue, because you can't just stop the business, because there's going to be tremendous backlash from the industry, from the people. People are losing jobs. We have to live with this virus. There is no way we can think of. It's a very slowly, developing virus, so it is going to be with us for a very long time. Unlike the SARS and MERS, the prediction is that at least 1 to 2 years it will be with us till we finally get a vaccine. So for that, the four cardinal principal measures are that never visit crowded place, don't let crowd build up, don't let people come out without mask, don't let people have dirty hands. They must not touch their face. The respiratory etiquette, and also it has been found that loud talking shares more virus. So the people should be asked to use very soft voice and talk very softly. And of course, personal hygiene and a good diet, which actually strengthens the immunity, are the only way, and that is what we suggested to these malls, and that is what is applicable to all business places. So that's what all I have to say, Dr. Neha. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Thanks. I think I will come back to you, Dr. Joshi. So now I'll move to Dr. R.K. Sharma. Dr. R.K. Sharma, I think your industry, because you are preparing some of the chemicals which are used by some of the other industries.
Yes.
So just brief us about that, how you started your industry after this lockdown period, or you were allowed to operate during that period also. So maybe I wish to understand that what are the measures you have taken to see that your industry is running, but at the same time people who are working there, they are safe, and the product is also safe once you are making it. Dr. Joshi, Dr. R.K. Sharma.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Nehal Siddiqui ji.
Dr. Siddiqui, before Dr. Sharma starts, I would like to inform Dr. Sharma that I am currently in the EIA committee of the industry too, that is for chemical and fertilizer, which gives permission to chemical fertilizer and pesticide company. And our chairman of the committee is the person who established India Glycol, Mr. J.P. Gupta. That's for your information, Mr. Sharma. So he's the chairman of our committee.
Okay. Okay. So Good evening, Dr. Joshi ji.
Thank you, sir.
And good morning, Dr. Rama Akula ji. I think in Canada it is morning, early morning. And Dr. Nehal, already we are associated since long. So good evening. And good evening to all participants and UPS faculty as well as the participants from the university. So basically today's subject is more
फ्लाईओवर पे नहीं चढ़ना, फ्लाईओवर के बाई साइड से निकलेंगे और फिर लेफ्ट को जाएंगे लाइट से.
हेलो
डॉक्टर जोशी थोड़ा आप उस स्पीकर को म्यूट कर लीजिएगा अपनी तरफ से.
हाँ, ओके.
So in general, if you will see, with reference to chemicals, we can generally say that any site which stores, handles, manufactures hazardous substances or energy will have an inherent risk. So first clarity is that always we have to handle the inherent risk, whatever we handle the things. And in the, if we will see our history, there are the few industrial disasters happened which are always taken as a benchmark to learn further and further. Those are the, in chemical industry, that is the milestones, that is Flaxboro, that is also related to the cyclohexane manufacturing. Then that happened in 1974, long back, that is related to the process safety problems. Then another big milestone was the Bhopal tragedy, where the MIC was there. Then if you will see in perspective of lockdown, because in industry, if we handle the hazardous chemicals or substances, so risk always there. But when it goes further problematic, so that situation is going on. That is your lockdown situation, where the industries are forced to shut down and they are again allowed to open based on the some conditions. And if you will see, lot of incidents happened during this scenario, this period. One which was the more popular, that was the LG Polymers, which happened on the 7th May 2020, and that happened in their styrene storage, because they handle the styrene. And there's a leakage of styrene gas, and that also given a very disaster situation similar to the Bhopal tragedy, because it vapor traveled into the nearby public area or habitat, and there was the crisis. So these, and after that, so many other incidents happened. But what happened actually, because there are the few things where we have to concentrate more. Fortunately, in this LG Polymers, why this incident is handled well? Because due to this COVID-19 preparedness, helped a lot, as dozens of ambulances with oxygen cylinders and ventilators were easily available at that time. So that was a plus point during such type of incident. If you will see preparation with the medical side, so that was the much better than the normal conditions, and that support due to this COVID pandemic, because that traveled, this vapors affected around 5 kilometer radius. And there's also related chemical hazards, because styrene itself is not so hazardous, but when it reacts with the oxygen, so it converts into styrene dioxide, and which is more lethal. So that is also a parallel reaction activities. And that is, we have not to go in depth in this particular incident, because a lot of their process gaps, process safety gaps, which contributed this one. So there, if you will see in totality, what are the contributing factors which played role in existing incident which happened during this period? So largely, if you will see, there are the few, we can project that one. That is, one is the factory siting, large product inventory, abandonment of the safeguards, then medical unpreparedness. These are the, if you will see the in totality, these are the few factors which played a role. And if you will see in the process industry, as we are in the process, India Glycols Limited is a chemical process industry and having the high variety of chemicals. We produce in the tune of 350, 400 different chemicals. And our main strength is our EO molecule, ethylene oxide. So we also do the ethoxylations, specialty chemicals, formulations like this, in addition to the alcohol business. As Abhi recently, Dr. Joshi also told that when he visited to the malls, because in the COVID duration, there are a lot of use of the sanitizers, and sanitizers are made of alcohol. Alcohol, there are the two type of alcohols are used. One is the IPA and ethanol. So largely ethanol is used because it is available, large amount is available. And the percentage of ethanol is around, it is a 70%, 65 to 75 or 80%. That is the thing. So why it is highly inflammable? Because if you will see the liquor industry, it is never told that it is highly inflammable. But in sanitizer, always it is indicated that it is highly, because the percentage of alcohol is high. Because in liquor it is 40, around 40% in this one. Here it in the tune of 70. So always it is at the flash point of around 20 to 22 degrees centigrade, which is support to the highly inflammable condition. So storage, handling, it always critical, because for the industry background or professionals to understand the hazard related to this common use chemical is not easy, because it have the alcohol which catch fire. And there are the sequences, few sanitizer industry, there's also cases where we also heard about the incidents in the industry. And others are also there, because in sanitizer there are the different forms. One is the liquids, gel. So gel is more dangerous because it encapsulates the ethanol, and for the long term it contains the alcohol contains, and it also highly inflammable, because some polymers are also added for making the gel formation. So come to back to the process industry. So they are the only three major hazards. We have to understand why we should think about the attention towards the risk mitigation, especially in certain such type of situations. So they are the mainly three type of hazards: fire, explosion, and toxic release, largely. And what are the major consequences? Because if you see fire, it may impact to plants, people, environment also, may also followed by toxic release also, because it is the initiation. Explosion, it is also a same fire but more severe. It may also continue with the fire. Toxic release impact on the people, environment, as already we have witnessed during Bhopal and recently Vizag incident. So what are the major consequences where we have to concern? So there are the few we can address consequences, that is like loss of life, injuries, impact on livestock, means animals. Lot of animals are also become part of that disasters. Then damage to flora, fauna, then environmental impacts in term, if you will say in term of air, water, soil, then lastly financial losses to the industry. So these are the, if you will see the nutshell, these are the major consequences where we have to always concentrate to reduce or mitigate the risk. So basically, if you will see what lackings were there due to this lockdown, because incidents always is not same. It also supports by the some lackings. So lockdown, during this lockdown situation, the running of the industry, especially process or chemical industry, they are the challenges, different challenges, because there are the lot of management deficiencies exist, and we have to force to overlook those things to run the plant at the earliest. So that is the biggest challenge during this lockdown, or you can say the COVID pandemic situation. And it is applicable throughout the globe. It is not true in India. It everywhere it is true. So for if you will see, for example, lack of skilled manpower, because somewhere administration controls 30% only allowed, and 30 you have to run industry with the 30%. There is a pressure from the management, you have to give the 100% production. So there are always conflicts and challenges. Then reduction of safety management. Reduction of safety management means the safety staff is also sometimes reduced, some left, because generally if you will see largely in industry it is on contract, this field staff and this one. So the persons who are on contract, they they went back to their hometown, or they shifted there, they await, and there also some hesitation in their mind to with reference to this COVID pandemic. Then insufficient and poor maintenance. That is another management deficiency which comes over during this pandemic, because always in a professional way in an industry there is a pre-maintenance, preventive maintenance, then your shutdowns, defined shutdowns is also conducted, but everything is disturbed. So when the time came to start the plants, so that is always challenge, that there is insufficient and as well as the poor maintenance. Then inadequate emergency action plans, because lot of things are not clear or not maintained properly, or somehow some safety management facilities are taken up as a shutdown. Similar happen in your this LG, because chiller cooling system is required, so cooling system was shut off. So the after effects was there, because the styrene to store at around 19-20 degrees centigrade, which is, and the temperature of the atmosphere was high, and that started polymerization and runaway reaction. So these are the basic things. Then storing chemicals in large quantities. When situation sudden, there is a requirement of stop the plant, so lot of chemicals inventories are there. So in regular feature, we have to concentrate on the stocks of the chemicals and everything. But during such situations, what is the most challenging thing? To understand and handle the storage conditions, whatever the industry have. Then failure of safety systems, because in running condition, everything is maintained and this one. And sudden, if you want to start a plant with limited resources, limited conditions, so always there is a chance of lacking of the such type of safety systems. Then manual dependency on manual operations, because what happens, there is some shutdown or breakdown of the some equipment or instrument. You are not having the supporting services. You are not getting the service engineers. You are not getting the supports from the equipment providers. So in that condition, what happens? Some safety bypass are taken. Some safety bypasses are taken, and some systems are taken on manual operation. So these are the few observations which we can raise to run the industry in this pandemic situation. And what are the probable causes? Then next is how accident happens in these situations, how it converts into a situation. So there are the few we can also address, like process deviations, like pressure, temperature, flow, as it is also witnessed in the, if you will see the in the LG chemicals, because there's no indication of the levels, there's no indication of the pressure like this, and there is no indication of control of temperature. And the supporting services who has to maintain the system, that was also taken shut down. Then parameters with regard to the state of substance, solid, liquid, gas, proximity to other toxic substances, etc. Example is similar. If you will see the styrene, it at the 1920 it is a liquid, but if you are not maintaining the predefined conditions or processed conditions, it converts into the solidification, polymerization and solidification and generation of heat. Then runaway reactions, then hardware failures. resulting in large scale spills and toxic substances. Because in such type of situations, if there is a failure of some if your hardware failures, so how to control? Because for all these we are dependent to other services, third party services and others. So these are always challenges. Then contaminants, improper tanks, from one tank to another tank, if some chemicals it's mixed. The case we came to know in chemical industry, where some unloading was there from a chemical which is wrongly unloaded into another non-compatible chemical tank, and there is a reaction. Then it is also planned that we will take care, and it is also wrongly it is circulated. After circulation, it reaction happened, and there was a big fire and explosion, and lot of nearby area things were also there which also engulfed into the fire. So how to understand this? So can we accept risk? Definitely we have to accept the risk, but the level of risk, calculating how to calculate the risk, calculative risk to be taken, that is the biggest challenge in this scenario. Because in normal situation we are defined each and everything, we do the calculated risk. Simple example, in our industry we also handle the styrene. The process is how to handle safely, because we use as a raw material for our one formulation. So what is the process? We immediately convert, because that is a safety approach. When you are understand the thing, risk involved, you can also have the solution. So what we used to do, we do the reaction. What is the reaction which is ultimately required for our formulation? So what we do, convert it into the styrinated phenol, and that converted into a safe chemical. So styrene reacted with phenol, converted into styrinated phenol, and styrinated phenol we require for our further reaction. So what is our approach? Whenever we receive styrene, immediately this is our practice. We convert it into our required chemical composition, rather than to keep styrene as it is and waiting when we require, then we can use. So this is the one way of address the risk mitigation in the proactive approach. You can say proactive. Generally what happens, our approach is always reactive. Reactive means, and proactive, what is the difference? Proactive, if you will see the example, implementing countermeasures to prevent an incident, it is termed as proactive because we are prepared. Then if we take the same countermeasures after an incident, then it is a reactive. So as Dr. Siddique was telling, later on we will discuss why the safety or engineer, fire engine and safety professionals are required. That is the basic baseline where the involvement and support of safety professionals have the value. Other example, if you say proactive, reactive, we perform hazard analysis and risk assessment. Why we do? Because our proactive approach is there. And if we does not do, then what is a reactive? We perform investigation. Incident investigation is a reactive approach. So, and determine root cause. Then we do the things which is in front of us. So another
Sharmaji, I think I will
time restriction is there.
Dr. Akula. Yeah, because we have to finish in 1 hour.
So just I am
already it is 7:35.
Just I am concluding 1 or 2 things.
Right. Okay.
So with that, we have our approach to run industry in certain this scenario. We have to follow 3 steps. First step is there should be a comprehensive list. We should define the equipment difficult to take a startup in the past. Minimum. This is the minimum requirement what we can do. So during such type of crisis, whenever we start the equipment that particular having the problem, we can take important attention on that one. Then bad actors asset to the limit shutdown. During shutdown, what are the bad factors we have experienced? So we have to concentrate more. Second step is safety first. That is very much required. Safety professionals should be there. Skilled manpower should be there. Then it should be top priority during any outage. Even you can define in COVID also. Then to take care about LOTO, that is very important thing, terminology. So such type of crisis, LOTO plays a very important role. When limited persons are there, limited equipments are there, and after a long time we are starting. And use of PPEs, including with reference to the COVID-19, because COVID-19 PPE's definition is at par with the safety. So we have to take care. And last and third step is inspection before restart. That is the must. Or in terminology process, terminology PSSR, we term as a PSSR, pre-starter safety review. So thoroughly it should be done. So look for wear and damages. For example, in rotary equipment, mechanical seal, pump seals, then safety fittings, PSV, rupture disc. So these checks are must. Otherwise, there will be a disaster. So with this, we also follow. We regular follow, because we also started producing during this lockdown. We also, our own brand, we produces the sanitizers, ethanol sanitizers, because we are having raw material ethanol. So ethanol terminology, if you will see though, it is also a challenge. So with this, I close my address.
Thanks, Dr. Sharma. I will come back to you again.
Sure.
Now I will invite Dr. Akula Ramkrishnan, who is from Canada, working as a vice president, to talk about that how we can run our business during this COVID-19 period, or maybe he can address like crisis management. So over to Dr. Ram.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. And especially thank you very much, Dr. Siddiqui, for a nice introduction. And thank you very much to Dr. Joshi and Dr. Sharma for giving a very good introduction on what is COVID and the technicalities behind the COVID thing, and the industrial exposures, what are all the risks, challenges we are currently facing in industry. Dr. Sharma has talked about that. Now, I want to give, to sum up these two discussions, I wanted to give a very brief presentation to you. It's a very short presentation, and the presentation will give an outline. Now, currently the situation is, we have a COVID situation, and for the past, on an average in the entire world, if you see, the lockdown has taken place about 80 days lockdown was there on an average. Slowly we are moving into a normal operations. So when we are coming to a normal operations, what kind of a precautions we need to take when the business is recovered? I wanted to give a very brief presentation on that. I would like to share my screen. Probably, can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. So I will give a very brief outline, about a 10 slides outline of how to recover the business operations during this COVID situation. After the COVID lockdown, what kind of things we need to do that. I don't want to go so deep into the technicalities, because already Dr. Sharma and Dr. Joshi has given a lot of...
Akula, can you come close to the mic, because I think the voice slightly down.
Okay. Can you hear me clearly now? I kept it a bit close, my mic.
Yeah.
So I tried to give a very brief introduction about how to recover the businesses after the COVID lockdown situation. So the presentation will take you very briefly. It gives I'll try to give a very basic understanding of various terms because a lot of terminologies are floating around: crisis management, business continuity, emergency management, risk management, and many other things are there. People should understand what is the fundamentals behind these terminology, and what is a business continuity plan. When you are returning back to businesses, these businesses should have continuity, and how to establish a business continuity plan, and what is the systematic approach for operational planning. Already Dr. Sharma has talked about this operational planning, about various risks, challenges, and PSSRs and all. He was mentioning about that, but I'll give a very outline, very high level picture how we need to what is our approach to bring back the operations in a systematic way. I will tell that. And also I will talk about a systematic process to conduct a business impact assessment. Even Dr. Joshi was mentioning about business impacts, how to conduct a very briefly, how to conduct a business impacts, what kind of an impacts are there on our businesses, whether the business means, whether it may be a manufacturing plant or an education institutions. There is certain processes are there. We need to understand how to conduct a business impacts on that, and what are all our primary goals to recover the business, because almost last 80 days we are almost under the lockdown conditions, and slowly we are recovering our businesses. We should have some goals should be there, and also how to establish business continuity management program. I will talk about that. These are all a very brief things, but I'll try to make it as simple as possible. Now, if you see the terminology, I'm not sure the letters may be small for you, for some of the people. There are certain terminologies are floating around talking about crisis management. Basically, the crisis management deals with the disruptive the process, how to deal with the process of disruptive and unexpected. One second, let me just keep this aside. Yeah.
You can do a full screen also. Yeah. From the bottom.
Okay. Can you see my screen? I think probably.
Yeah, now it's better.
You can see that. So the crisis management deals with the disruptive and unexpected events, and the business continuity planning is the process of prevention and recovery to potential threats, like kind of a COVID. What is a process to recover or the prevent such kind of a situations? Talks about business continuity planning. Whereas in emergency management are basically dealing with the humanitarian aspects of emergencies, like examples, an incident like what Dr. Sharma was talking about, styrene incident in India. These are all some kind of an emergency management. And business impact analysis is the management is a management level analysis, which impacts resulting what kind of an interruptions are there, and how it is going to impact my business. It talks about and the risk assessment is identifying threats, analyzing probabilities, vulnerabilities, and impacts, and all. It talks about the risk assessment, talks about that. And continuity of operations ensures necessary steps are taken to maintain viable continuity for a business. These are all the fundamental things. Probably you can able to see these terminologies elsewhere, but you should understand thoroughly before acting into any of the business continuity program or business recovery programs. So now if you see that there is a business continuity programs, there are about 6 elements are there in a business continuity program. That these 6 elements are: first, you need to identify the business impact. What is the impact on my business? First, you need to identify. Then you should have a crisis management should be in place in your organization or in your business, and an emergency management should be in place. You need to identify the risks and challenges in operations, and then you need to plan the operational planning, and finally you need to enforce the business recovery plans or implement the business recovery plans. So these 6 elements are very important for any business continuity program or business recovery program. That, but you need to also understand who is responsible at what level. Now, if you see that corporates and business units, these organizations, normally they are major corporates are there, they have a different business units are there, and they have individual locations or sites or individual plants are there. So the corporates are at a very high level. Primarily they deal with the crisis management of any issue. And when it comes to some extent, business units also will participate in developing the crisis management. But the business continuity is primarily dealing with the business units. or the middle-level organizations, and to some extent the facilities also will participate in business continuity plan, whereas the emergency managements are dealt with primarily with the locations, and not the business units or corporates are not fully involved in emergency management because it is mainly dealing with the humanitarian aspect of a business. So now let us see each element one after the other, and we'll try to understand at a very high level. So now first I wanted to give that in the business continuity plan, I told you about 6 plans are there. Now we'll talk about crisis management and emergency management. So this crisis management, business continuity and emergency management all go in hand and glove methods. Like in emergency management, as I was mentioning about, it is primarily dealing with the workplace incidents, accidents, fires and threats. Business continuity deals with supply interruptions, supply chain interruptions, critical equipment or machinery breakdowns. It will be dealing with that. And crisis management is primarily, it is dealing with the financial irregularities or a production contamination kind of a things. It will be dealing with that. But there are certain interfaces are there, certain areas like emergency management and business continuity, you need to deal with that. So that area, sometimes you need to deal with a business continuity and crisis management, you need to deal, sometimes crisis management and emergency management, you need to deal with that. In the current COVID situation, what happened, we need to deal with all the 3 things put together. There is things when there is a major impact in the market shares, where there is a major impact in earnings, business earnings. All these 3 plans are activated now. Currently, our COVID situation is this kind of a situation where you need to activate crisis management, business continuity, and emergency management. Now, already the lockdown has passed away, so the crisis management to some extent they have implemented, and emergency management also they have done that. Now the businesses deal with the business continuity and emergency management, they need to focus on to that. To do that, initially they need to go for a risk assessment. So now if you see that the business impact assessment is, you need to identify what kind of an impact is there on my business. So business, once you identify the impacts, both you need to do with inside the organization and outside the organization, you need to identify what is the impacts. And you need to prioritize your products. You may not be able to recover the complete business. You need to identify what are all the products you want to bring it faster to the market, and what are all the processes you need to prioritize, what are all the activities you need to prioritize in your organization, and analyze and consolidate and finally provide a management approval for business continuity planning or a business impact assessment. The management will decide based on the recommendations. They will identify how they need to go for business continuity strategy. They will go for that. So this is basically a risk assessment. And when it comes to the operational planning, Dr. Sharma has talked about that. We need to identify the hazards. What kind of hazards when I wanted to start any business or a new, when I'm reopening my business, and what kind of a vulnerability is there? Who are all the people are going to impact in the process, and what kind of an impacts are there? What is the analysis of those impacts and how you wanted to recover, how you want to mitigate? You need to see that. Finally, it has to feed into the business continuity strategy. You need to develop a new procedures and systems. Probably the existing procedures are valid, but you need to take additional precautions and you need to develop additional business continuity procedures. And finally, you need to exercise and test the operational thing. You need to do that. And when it comes to the business recovery, total overall recovery, once you have assessed the gaps, business impact assessment, you have done that, and you identify some kind of a gaps in the assessment process, you need to plan a recovery strategy, document and communicate, prioritize all your activities, and train your teams before starting a new operations. And then you have to go for a pre-startup safety reviews, pre-startup work and reviews, and address gaps, all those things. And then you have to go back to your return to work, like all the business has to come back to return. And at the same time, they have to monitor and control, like a periodic medical tests and other things they have to monitor and control. This is so what happened, you have seen that, you have understood some basic terminologies of all the critical terms what we are floating around in the current market, and the impact assessments, how we need to conduct a business impact assessment. You have seen the risk assessments, operational planning and business recovery. If you do all these things, what happened, your businesses will come back. come back to normalcy, but it takes some time. For further reading of about all these recovery plans and all those things, there are reference standards are available. You can see that ISO 22000, 301, 315, 313, 317, and National Fire Protection Association 1600 standards. These are all the reference standards. If anybody wants further details, they can go deep into that and they can get more information. So don't want to take much of the time. Let us, if anybody has any questions in business recoveries or anything, we will answer in the question and answer session. If anybody wants the presentation, please email to me so that I can share the presentation to you people. Over to Dr. Siddiqui. Thank you very much. Dr. Siddiqui?
Yeah. Thanks, Akula, for your presentation and very good information. I think it is a great opportunity to interact with you after a long time. And so now I will move to Dr. T.K. Joshi. You are there? Still there? Dr. Joshi?
I'm there.
Yeah, Dr. Joshi. Yeah, I need some input. What is your opinion? Because you have spent, I think, more than around 50 years in this occupational health issues, and you have seen everything. Maybe you may be the first occupational health expert of our country. What is your opinion that how our fire safety engineer can play a role in reducing the impact of these COVID situation in current and in future also?
No, I think
over to
I
you.
would say that right now we have absolutely no clue. We have no plan, and we are still struggling because every day, this is coming up with some new kind of presentation, new kind of features. So for COVID, that's what it is. But I must say about LG Polymer, I would like to say something about LG Polymer, because CPCB asked me now that the incident is over and we have a very large number of exposed population, what we should be doing. So I said that now is the time that you have to make a cohort of all the people who have been exposed, and then we have to carry out a health screening for them in times to come. So they asked for how many years? I said minimum 5 years. Now the good thing about the styrene is that it is unlike methyl isocyanate. We know, as Mr. Sharma said, Dr. Sharma said, we know a lot about this styrene toxicity. But methyl isocyanate, we didn't know anything. But the problem with the styrene is that it can cause cancer. And we don't know what will be the effect on the pregnant women. So I would say that one of the biggest failings and shortcomings in our is that we have no system of monitoring the health of those who have been exposed to very toxic and hazard chemical. That is what I would say. I would say that excellent presentation by Dr. Sharma and Dr. Akula, and they have actually put the other safety side, but I think the health side remains very weak. That is what I would say.
Yeah, that Dr. Joshi, my question that is on that the knowledge which our student used to have, fire safety,
Yes.
They exposed to occupational health subject, you come and take some of the guest lectures, they know about industrial hygiene part, they are exposed to industrial hygiene lab. So with this knowledge, what is your opinion whether they are really useful for current situation and coming situation? That is my question. That is
they are very useful. Unfortunately, in this country, what is happening that many of the doctors, because they have not undergone proper training, they don't understand the value of safety, and they don't understand that they have to work with engineers and with the safety people together to sort out the problem. They work in their own isolated compartment, and they don't interact with the safety engineers who have who can teach them. And so it is a two sides of the one coin. It is a coin. If both sides are not there, we won't have the perfect protection and prevention in the workplace.
So I understand that you are saying that even the doctor should learn from this fire safety engineer. They and altogether they can reduce these type of impact in current scenario and in coming.
Absolutely.
Thanks,
Absolutely.
Dr. Joshi. I think you should now move to your home. You are close to your home. Yeah,
Yes.
I will now move to Dr. R.K. Sharma, who is again basically a fire safety engineer. Dr. Sharma, my question that what is your opinion that how this fire safety engineer knowledge, experience, the content you have studied or you are part of even taking some of our guest lecture, you are part of our curriculum design. So what is your opinion that how useful this particular profession in current scenario? Dr. Sharma.
Yeah, can you repeat the question? Actually, there is a
My
call.
question that with knowledge, with experience, what is your view on that fire safety engineer, how they can play a role in reducing these type of problems in current scenario in coming futures?
Okay.
Ideally, what is the future of fire safety engineer who are actually getting a lot of knowledge on occupational health, industrial hygiene, hazard identification? You know, this is part of their all syllabus and disaster management.
That is true, because this profession plays a very important role, because the thought process varies with reference to the professional approach. In particular to the fire safety professions, their thought process is totally different to the other disciplines, because other disciplines, they also act as a safety professional, because every profession needs safety approach and safety behavior. But the liability, or you can say the overall responsibility, or you can say the outcome from the any risk or hazard to design in the system, the basic responsibility goes to the directly to the profession who are directly concerned. So there, this safety and fire professionals plays a very important role. If you will see, as a safety profession, we think in a predefined approach. We doesn't approach when something happened wrong. So that is the quality required with the fire safety professional, where they have to act before happening anything. And that is approach is the meditational approach. Means hardcore profession to understand and react and plan and organize to reduce the risk before something happens wrong. So that is the basic requirement.
So thanks a lot, Dr. Sharma. So as per your opinion that these fire safety engineer, right from the construction of industry, designing phase and running of the industries, they play a very, very important role.
Sure. If you will see, I can conclude it. They are the risk control measures. They are the 3 steps. One is physical. Physical covers all passive, active protections, automatic protection like this. Right. Procedural protection, procedural approach, developing the SOPs. As already our Dr. Akula also addressed, how to update, how to improve the SOPs existing. So that is a professional approach. And educational, continuous educating the staff persons or employees. So these 3 altogether make a professional of safety.
Thanks a lot. So now I'll move to Dr. Akula, who is presently at Canada and spent a lot of time in Middle East. So Akula, what is your opinion? You have seen safety professionals requirement in Middle East, and then now you move to Canada. And I wish to know that what is your opinion, how these safety professionals can play an important role in running the entire system. You see that if you stop industries, I think a lot of unemployment will occur. And at the same time, you may not get your product which you require. So a very, very important role is required by these professionals. So I wish to know your opinion on this.
Yes, Dr. Siddiqui, yeah, safety nowadays is given a lot of importance in industries. In the current scenario, if you see the COVID scenarios and other scenarios, the industries are facing every day and day, they are facing a new challenges and a new concerns they are facing that. And safety and fire professionals, generally, they are in the front line to handle these kind of an issues. So the safety and fire professionals really are needed to industry at this stage. I have seen the industrial operations or business operations in Middle East, Asia, and North America and Europe. So everywhere, people are slowly moving towards standardization, especially in Asian markets. If you see that, people are moving towards standardization and new trainings, development of a documentation, procedures, and all those things. They are going ahead that for all those things, these multidisciplinary talents are required that those gaps are filled by fire and safety professionals, and I'm sure definitely they have a lot of scope in future in the industry in terms of frontline incident commanding, and also for the documentation, training, and many other areas. Their inputs are required to the industrial leaders to frame the strategies and the business recoveries or business strategies to frame that. So a lot of scope is there for these people in the future.
So thanks a lot to all panelists, Dr. T.K. Joshi, who was very busy. I think started journey early morning from Delhi to Chandigarh to do the inspection of malls and give recommendation how to go about. And Dr. R.K. Sharma, I think he's looking after now shutdown, and shutdown for any industry is very, very important, very crucial stage. And Dr. Akula, who is actually sitting in Canada, time is, I think, early morning. So thanks a lot, all three panelists. And I hope that people who attended this session, they may have enjoyed, they have attained some knowledge on how to go about, how to operate their industry safely, and what a safety professional can contribute to run their industries in current scenario. So once again, thanks a lot to everybody, our panelists, and our team of UPS. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank